Hello there. It's so good to see you. I can't believe it's been a week. It's Thursday, and I am Dr. Stephanie Fine here with you to give you a little ounce of prevention this week. And we do this every Thursday at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time. And what we do is we're doing a deeper dive into the topic of the week that comes into your inbox by way of the weekly ounce of prevention. So if you're not signed up for that, go to the website, stephaniefinemd.com, sign right up, and you'll get it every week. And then we can talk about it here, which I love doing. So this week, it's about becoming lighter through ritual. Now, I know that sounds... It all makes sense. So, ritual. What's important about ritual is that it's a very deep acknowledgement of something. That's what ritual is. So it is. It requires that you take time to be conscious of something. So ritual can be, often we'll think of religious things. So, weddings and funerals and coming of age, ceremonies and things like that. And there's literally community around it. And the reason there's community around it, it's not a mistake. And it's not a mistake that many, many religions have different, they may have different rituals around these things, but big events, like a marriage or a death or a birth, they're meaningful and they need to be acknowledged. It may seem obvious, but this is why the ritual has come. And in fact, community ends up being an important part of that too, because when you deeply acknowledge in front of other people, particularly your tribe, then you are more accountable. You step into it in a much different way than if you sort of let it go by. And this can be, when you have a change in a change in relationship. So a divorce would be a big one. There's not exactly ritual around it like there is a marriage, but I would argue that there should be. It can be a long drawn out process, but there should be a point at which there is a purposeful acknowledgement of the dissolution of a marriage. And a lot of times, ritual will involve grief. Now, that may seem funny, and I'll even talk about it in a happy way. So even with marriage, the acknowledgement is that I'm coming together to partner with this person for the rest of my life, which means the person I used to be is no longer. And I'm moving into a new version of me that includes another person in it. There's grief there. Same with the birth, like the birth of a first child. There's grief that the singlehood, before children is gone. Birth of a second child, no more just one child. A transition, just by definition, means that there's going to be grief. And when we don't acknowledge the grief, we get fat. That's like the thing that came to my mind. And the way that happens is this group, the people who are interested in this, my people, the way that I used to cope too and still work on is with food. So soothing the feelings, any feelings really, but certainly grief is one of them. And when it's sneaky, like thinking that you should be happy about a certain event, a job change, there's grief about the old way. And that's okay, you're allowed. And not only are you allowed, it's a natural part of it and should be acknowledged. So we talk a lot about conscious decisions here because that's what's needed. Conscious decisions make sure that you're honoring what's going on with yourself. You're eating when you're hungry, you're making choices that are good for your body, that give you the energy you want, that don't make you feel cruddy, 10 minutes later. So that's what we're talking about now as we transition. Now, the thing that's interesting about ritual and the point about this is simply that when you properly acknowledge, deeply acknowledge any sort of shift, you can then you're labeling it as something to grieve, which doesn't have to take forever if we're talking about something little. If we're talking about something big, it will take a longer time. Then you can move forward with ease. You're literally lighter. You can actually move forward into that new person that you're going to be because you've acknowledged the past. Often we can be grateful for it. We can, that's what the ritual is. We can thank whatever came before and move on cleanly into the new. So that's the point about rituals. And as I pointed out in the words in the blog, it could be a little something. It could be by yourself lighting a candle, but just what you're doing is you're acknowledging it. And that's what's so important. When we do that, we're less likely to eat to soothe an unknown grief. That's what we're looking to do. We're labeling it so we can identify and say, I know what that is. I'm feeling sad about XYZ. My kid's not being, mine right now is my kids growing up. Oh, it's been so painful. And those little 2 and 3 year olds, they're not 2 and 3 anymore. And a lot come with that. So anyway, I acknowledge that in myself all the time. It comes in little mini waves. And it's so much easier to when I can name it and say, there you are. Hello, grief about my children growing up. I see you. And then I can move on. So I'm not wondering why I'm feeling crappy today or why I needed, a little extra TLC today. I don't have to wonder about that feeling and then stuff it. So that's the important piece about this, is finding out where the grief is. And the important part about that too is you, at any time, you can identify the grief. So let's say you sort of glossed over the grief about your father passing away. You can't, because it was, and this can happen, right? If you're, depending, whatever your relationship with your father, but if he was ill or, it could be a very difficult time around the death and it never then gets processed. So whenever you feel it, you can process it. It could be years later. So that's what I want to say. If you can discover where the grief is, where the unknown feeling is that you eat over, the more we can get that up and acknowledge it, the lighter you'll be, both physically and emotionally. So that's that important piece. And then the timing of this is because, New Year's is coming up. And so it's just sort of a natural time to look back over the year and acknowledge the things that went really well and then things you'd like to change going forward. And then once you've done that, you can go forward again with ease because you've learned the lessons you needed to learn. You've openly acknowledged the things that have gone well and not gone so well. And you're learning from them. They do not need to hang on to you. They don't need to be anchors, as you're sort of pulling yourself forward. So think about, if you can't think of any other sort of rituals that are meaningful to you right now, think about doing one for New Year's. And that's what I got for you. I know parties are happening probably around this week, and you have some great tools. We talked about that in the last couple of weeks, so you can go back and check those out. I just love being with you, and I'm hoping that this idea of ritual resonates, and then you can go forward and use it as you will. So I will see you next week. Please, if this makes sense to share with someone, please do. Join the group where we talk about this. We'll have little chats with each other about ritual and what's your favorite and that sort of thing. And that's at planforpossible.com. Planforpossible.com. Love you. Have a great week. Bye.